So I need to go to number 10. That's not a bad view for the 10th floor. I'm pretty much looking out onto there we go, Shizuoka City. Early evening. Hello everybody. For them of you watching on YouTube, you can see I'm not in my, well, I use the word studio very loosely, but I'm not in my studio back home. I am in a hotel room for them watching on YouTube, I'm in Shizuoka and I am on the 10th floor. So you can see through window Shizuoka City. Now I've got a job on tomorrow morning, so I jumped on the train at 2:30 this afternoon. It's Friday, and I headed down to Shizuoka City. I arrived here at 5:15, and it's just gone 6 o'clock now. Now that I've found my hotel, I've got myself checked in, and I'll head out later for something to eat. Now, we are on episode 101. So what I thought I would do is a Room 101 episode. I'm not in Room 101. I'm in Room 1017. But we'll do a Room 101 episode. Now, for those who don't know, Room 101 were a really popular TV program in the 90s, and for the life of me, I can't think of the fellow that hosted it. But what they'd have is they'd have famous people, celebrities come on, and they would list things that pissed them off, things that you can do without. Now, my top of my list would be rain. Rain is the number one on my list. But I'm not going to do that today because rain doesn't really piss me off that much, because I've now left the north of England over, well, I'm 22 years this year. I've been gone full time. So living in Japan, I can't really have rain at top of my list, because here in Japan, you can time your watch by it. From June the 12th, from June the 15th to July the 15th is rainy season. And I shit you not, within a couple of days of that day, it pisses it down for 1 month. And by the time you get to around the 17th of July, it's all done and dusted. And then summer rolls in. So you've got a month and a half of horrific temperatures, hot and humid. And everybody that lives here doesn't like summer. All the Japanese people don't like summer. My wife doesn't like summer. The kids are not good with summer. And the expats that live here, the expats from Australia, New Zealand, where they get this similar type of weather and similar type of temperatures, they hate it. I can't understand it. When you come from where I come from, where it's grey and drizzling all the time, when you've got a summer here, when you're sweating all the time, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I can see where they're coming from. When I lived in Tokyo, you've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of air conditioners blasting all day, all the time. So with the air conditioners, it's blowing cold air into your room, but it's blowing the hot air out into the street. So it's red hot. And plus, you're walking on tarmac. So that heat that's coming from the sun is bouncing off the black tarmac and hitting you in the face. And it is like a sauna, and you've got to go to work. Now, I've sorted myself out with a job now that gives me 7 weeks off in the summer. So I suppose I've got nothing to complain about. But summer, even when I was working in those summer months, it was still my favourite season here. Absolutely loved it. So rain is not on my list in Japan. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do the Room 101, things that I hate about Japan. There's not much. I've only got three. So that's what I'm going to delve into today. Things I hate about Japan. So, number 3, rule following. Rule following is made for Japanese people. They follow rules. It is bone deep in them to follow rules. They could not think of a time, they could not think of a situation where they would not follow rules. And I think I know why. I don't know, but I think this is what I've come up with. Now, what you've got here in Japan is you've got a landmass that doesn't fucking want you here. This place does not want you here. You are getting earthquakes at least 2 or 3 times a month. Not the huge ones like Fukushima in 2011, but you'll get a bit of a shake. And whether it's the middle of the night, you sit up and is it going to get stronger? Is it going to get stronger? Nope. Okay, back to sleep. If you are getting shakes that are above 4 or 5, you'll get a message on your phone and it'll wake you up. So you've got to be wary of that. So that's just one reason that the country don't want you here. Also, you've got volcanoes that are going off. There's certainly an active volcano down in Kagoshima called Sakurajima, Cherry Blossom Mountain. That is always smoking. And every now and again, it'll show the people of Kagoshima who's the boss, and it'll blow its top and everybody will shit themselves for a bit. And then it'll calm down again. So there's volcanoes. There's earthquakes. Also, you've got the tsunamis. So you've got in place all these rules that you need to follow just to make sure you're not going to get killed. So from a very early age, kids are in school from kindergarten. You're in school and they will have these earthquake drills once every 3 months. And they know exactly what to do. They've got their earthquake helmets at hand, but they've got to get under the table, and they've got to wait until the shaking stops. On the back of the chair where they sat at school, they've got this hood. I don't want to say Ku Klux Klan because it's not. You can see out at front. There's no eye holes in it, but it's a silver hood that you put over your head. That if a fire kicks off, they can run out of the school and they're not going to burn their heads. So they've got that on the back of the chair. They've got their helmets at the back of the class, which they will run and get. Anyway, so we do this, or they do this, once every 2 or 3 months, so they know what to do. So it's in them. That's a rule that they've got to follow, that is put in them when they are 4, 5-year-old. So they know they need to follow this rule, otherwise you're fucking toast. Absolute toast. And yeah, with the tsunamis, there's a different one. You've got the earthquake one, you've got the tsunami one. If it's an earthquake one, the kids run out onto the playground and they wait there. There's an head count, and if there's any kids missing, the teachers will go back in the building and try and find the kids. If it's a tsunami, the kids, they put on the same sort of stuff. They'll put on the hoods or the helmets, but if a tsunami's coming, they have to go upstairs. So they know these basic rules that they've got to follow, and they know if they don't follow these rules, you can die. So I think that's put in them from a very early age. Follow rules and you'll be right as rain. Now, I'm all for rule following. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for rule following, but not all the time. I mean, if you look back in history, there were 6 million Jews that did as they're told in the 40s. That didn't turn out right. So I will follow certain rules in this country. I mean, the rules on the train. You will see people pushing, the staff will push on the people on the trains, but nobody will get aggressive because you're all in it together. So you deal with that. When you get in, I mean, these rules are fantastic. When you are getting on that train, you wait for everybody to get off first until the last person. It could be an old woman, an old man, or a mother with the kids getting off slowly. You wait until that last person comes off till you get on that train. Great rule to follow. The trains are always on time. They're never late because the staff, the train drivers are following the rules. Everything's followed. So from that early age, these rules are followed. Walking down the street, you always walk on the side of the street that the traffic is on. So like it's the same in England. We drive on the left. We drive on the left. Yeah, we drive on the left. We drive on the left, and when you're walking on the pavement, on the sidewalk, you walk on the left, so you don't bump into each other. So they do the same on the roads as they do on the paths. So you're not having to dodge and weave. You just do the same. Another great rule. Another great rule. Now, where all this falls down, when that pandemic started, Japanese people could not wait to jump in the masks. Okay, they could not wait to have the lockdowns. And everybody followed them rules. I mean, masks were always part of the culture here anyway. If you've got flu or a cold, you put a mask on, not to make yourself recover quicker, it's so not to give it to other people. Now, in the West, when you would see somebody with a mask on before 2020, you'd be thinking, look at that weirdo. In Japan, you would see people who were sick wearing them, and you would see some people in airports would wear them, especially after all this bird flu kicked off earlier on. Now, the rule following with these masks has got ridiculous because in March, the Prime Minister said, right, we don't have to wear them anymore. And then at the end of Golden Week, which was May the 8th, countrywide, you don't have to wear masks anymore. Countrywide. Now, they've been told, don't wear masks. You can't notice the difference. Everybody's still in masks. Supermarkets. I don't ride trains. I had to ride a train today to get down here. Everybody's in a mask. Everybody's in a mask. I was the one that wasn't wearing the mask, and I had a free seat either side of me. Now, I don't know if that's because I wasn't wearing a mask or because I'm a foreigner, because that happens a lot to foreigners. Nobody, even on a crowded train, there's not many people will sit next to you on a train. I don't know if that with a mask or it with the Western face, but nobody seems to be getting rid of the masks. They don't. They just do not seem to be getting rid of the masks. So I don't know what is going on there. But yeah, that's the rule following. Rule following is a big thing, and rules are good to follow sometimes, but the way that they follow them here is it's almost religious. the rule following here, and it's number 3 in my list. And we're back for number 2 in my list. I just had to check my notes. Yeah, I give you a peek behind the curtain. I just had to check my notes for number 2. Now, number 2. This doesn't really affect me, but I see it with Japanese people, and it is work ethic. Work ethic is my number 2 in my Room 101 in Japan. Now, the Japanese live to work. Asians live to work, whether it be Japanese, South Koreans, to a certain extent the Chinese, those East Asian countries, they go out of their way to work all hours God sends. I mean, you think 150 years ago, what you can see outside there would have just been wooden Japanese houses. They were more or less a third world country. They had no heavy industry. They had nothing. I say a bit 200 years ago. Let's call it 200 years ago. They were just a country of fishermen and farmers. And then the Industrial Revolution came and they went at it like a bull at a gate. But the only reason they could go at it and make such a success of this country was to put the hours in, to really put them hours in. And they are now, or they've just dropped actually to 3rd in the world's leading economies. And it's because of the work that they put in. Now, something's got to suffer when you work in all these hours. Something's got to suffer, and it's usually the family. So what happens here in Japan, a typical salaryman, a Japanese salaryman, will work for one company his entire working life. So he'll be leaving university at 21, 22. He'll be going into the workforce and he will be staying there until he's about 65. And then he's done. Now, a Japanese salaryman will get up in the morning, probably before his kids are up. A traditional Japanese family, the wife will get up first and get his breakfast on. So the fella will, if he's a healthy kind of chap, he will have time for a shower, he'll sit down, wife will have breakfast with him, and she'll wave him off to work. Right, off you go. And then she will get the kids up and ready for school. So off he'll go. He'll walk to the train station and get on the train. Now, the average commute in Japan, thinking 40 minutes to an hour. So you're on train 40 minutes to an hour. Now, if you're getting on that train at 8 o'clock, if you're not at an origin station where the train turns up empty, you're not getting a seat by... You're going to be lucky to get a seat at that if you're second in the station. Where I live in Sushi, half the train joined at my station. So when I worked in Tokyo, you could 9 times out of 10 you were getting a seat. By the time you got to Yokohama, fucking sardine time, just jammed in. And in rainy season, imagine this: you walk into the station, it's raining, you've got your umbrella, but your feet are wet. So your feet are wet. That's annoying. So you get on the train and you've got your umbrella, which is wet, and other people have got their umbrellas, which are wet. So that wetness is going to all over your pants. So your pants are wet. Anyway, you see Japanese men and women on the train, and as soon as that train sets off, bang, they're out. They're asleep. And off they go. Yokohama, Tokyo, or Yokohama, 30 minutes away from where I live. Tokyo, 55 to an hour away on train. And they usually sleep. And when I lived in Tokyo, you've got this radar where you can be out on the train, completely out in the morning. But when you are getting to that station where you've got to get off, I don't know what it is, but you wake up. Not with the start, you sort of come to, right, you look around, right, my station's next. Weird. And off the salarymen go. They go to the work, they sit down at the computers or whatever they do, and they just tap away at them keys until lunchtime. Lunchtime, 12 till 1, 1 till 2. They'll go out, sit down at a restaurant, throw 1,000, 1,500 at lunch, go back. Now, I used to be friends with a fella that was a salaryman, a high-ranking salaryman. And this is different to the UK. When you get that dip in the afternoon around 2, half 2, 2, half 2, when you're nodding a bit, he would put his head on the desk and have a sleep, and his boss wouldn't bother him at all. Just let him be, and he'd have that half an hour, quarter of an hour kip, that power nap, and then he'd be good to go. So in the UK, around 5 o'clock, you leave at 5 o'clock. So you're sort of not doing fuck all, really, from 4:30. You're sort of winding down the day, getting yourself ready to leave at 5. Now, 5 o'clock, if you are leaving work at 5 o'clock in Japan, that is frowned upon. Frowned upon. So, even if you've finished all your work, there's nothing else left to do, and it's 5 o'clock. Your boss is sat at the end of the desk, so he'll have a team like sitting at a dinner party. The people who own the house are sitting at the ends of the desk. The bosses are sat at the end of the desks. If you are seen to leave at 5 o'clock, you're just not part of the team. So what you've got to do is you've just got to sit there and look busy until your boss leaves. So if your boss is putting in the hours and he's not leaving until 9, 10 o'clock, you've just got to sit there. So you finished at 5, you've got another 5 hours of just looking busy until your boss leaves. That's in the culture. Now, what some of them do is around 7 o'clock, they'll think, oh, let's have a drinking party. So they'll leave about 8 o'clock, they'll go find a restaurant, and they'll get fucking tanked. Absolutely shit-faced. And then they'll get on the train. A lot of them get on the last train, which is around 11 o'clock from Tokyo to where I am. That'll be the last train. And that train is packed. You think you've gone out on the piss on a Tuesday night and you're going home on last train at 11, you're not going to get home till 12. Your family's in bed. And if your kids haven't got up in the morning when you've got up, you're not going to see them. Now, I had a job like that when we first came back from Spain in 2013. I had to accept every job that came in because we needed to get some money in bank because we came back from Spain with nout. So what I did was I accepted everything. And on a Sunday night, I'd go to bed and I wouldn't see my kids awake until Tuesday night because I would go to work in the morning. On a Monday night, I would not be getting home till 9:30. And then I'd go to bed and I'd get up on a Tuesday, go to work. And I would get back in on a Tuesday night around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and the kids would still be up. But there are Japanese men out there across the country that would have said, The lucky fella getting home at 7 o'clock, 7:30. You're so lucky to get home that early. So there are hundreds of thousands of families out there, kids that are not seeing the dads through week because work is first here. Work is always first. And then at the weekends, because you want to seem like a team player, when I would go to work on a Saturday morning, I've got jobs in my hometown that I do on a Saturday and a Sunday. I'll cycle past the convenience store and there are men in the late 20s, early 30s that'll have kids at home with golf bags. They're going to have business meetings and they're off to play golf with their colleagues. So then your kids, they've got no male figure in their life because of this work ethic. Yeah. So that's my number 2, is the work ethic. As a foreigner in Japan, you can kind of set your own rules. You can say no, especially when you're my age, around 50, early 50s, late 40s, early 50s. You can just start saying no. But when you first get here, like I were in my early 30s, you've just got to get some traction and make a life for yourself. You just accept everything and you don't question it. But yeah, the work ethic is something that I'm not on board with here. Yeah, but we do get left alone. The foreigners will get left alone to do their own thing. And Japanese people being so polite, they will not really say anything to you. They'll just let you be. So that's my number 2. Number 3, shyness. Shyness is a big thing in Japan. It really is. And being someone from the north of England, being from Yorkshire, shyness was always a very negative thing when you were a kid. Don't be shy. Stop being so bloody shy. Go and ask him. Ask him your bloody self. I'm not doing everything for you. So you're taught from a very early age, from where I'm from, not to be shy. And here, Japan, out of all the countries I have visited, Japan is probably one of the shyest countries, if not the shyest country in the entire world. And here's my 10 cents why I think Japan is so shy. Number 1, they don't want to make themselves look like a fool. The Japanese don't want to look foolish, so they will not approach someone. Their English is very good, but they're not that confident with their English. So Japanese people will be very wary to approach you here. So there is shyness everywhere. Even between Japanese people, they seem to be very shy. And it's having a massive problem on the country because the birth rate is falling at a dramatic rate. Last week, Mr. Kishida, the Prime Minister of Japan, is trying to get a bill passed where you're going to be getting 10,000 yen per kid. Now, 10,000 yen per kid per month is £60. But if you put in the effort and you get that third kid, you're going to get 40 grand a month for the third kid. So families with 3 kids are going to be getting 60 grand a month to help. Now, the birth rate is falling so much in this country that when you go to a supermarket, adult nappies, there is more adult nappies in the supermarket than there are for babies. And that's because people aren't dating, because they're shy. Now, there are other factors. People want careers, they want money for themselves, they just don't want kids. But as I see it, it's down to shyness. Now, when you first arrive in Japan, I wasn't single. And then after a year of being here, I was. So I had to get back into the dating game. And it's a perfect storm for a Western man, is Japan. It really is. And I'm going to be stereotypical here. It's not in every case, but this is how I saw it back in 2006 when I ended up being single again. So, what you've got is very, very attractive women and very, very shy men. Now, when I first arrived in Japan, I was living in a foreigner's house, but there were a lot of Japanese people that were living in with us, lots of them. And there were one fella that was in our house, mid to late 20s, very handsome Japanese man, very, very handsome Japanese man. And if he'd have put his mind to it, he could have had his pick, but he was just too shy. So there was me and I think 3 other foreign men in the house that would go out, and we would take him with us because our Japanese was not that good. So he would do the translating for us if we were trying to chat somebody up. Now, when he was with us, he was fine. But if he had to go out by himself, he wouldn't say boo to a goose. He wouldn't say boo to a goose. So I was saying to him, how are you going to meet somebody? How are you going to get yourself settled down and have kids? And this was just as the iPhone was coming out. So you were emailing, you were going on websites in Japan and trying to date like that. It's not like today with all these apps, but he were finding it, he were having a job on, trying to find himself a girlfriend. I would talk to women in their 50s, that were still living at home with their parents, that you would go to a dating club. Like, it was a more formal speed dating place where you would sit down and just chat. And there were a woman in her mid-40s, very nice woman, very attractive. And she showed me the picture of the man that she was going to marry. And I said to her, what are you doing that for? What are you doing that for? And I said, well, he doesn't seem to be a handsome fella. He didn't look after himself. His face was as red as a beetroot. Looked like he had high blood pressure. Didn't look healthy at all. And he was still living at home with his parents. And all she wanted to do was get married because she didn't want to be left on shelf. And he were doing the same because they were getting a lot of pressure from his mum and dad. He had it easy at home. But his mum and dad had started saying to him, get out there, get out of his house and get married. You're in your mid-40s. And all he wanted to do was stay at home with his mum and dad until they dropped dead so he could live there by himself. But I think about at least once a month, I'll think about this woman. And I wonder if she's still married. Because you would look at a photo of them side to side and you wouldn't have put them together. Not in a month of Sundays. So if it were up to me, I would say to the Japanese people, don't worry. Stop being so shy. Stop being so shy. And that's my room 101 for Japan. Now, if we were talking about the UK, I could have done a 4-hour podcast. You know, rain, food, people, the weather, all sorts of stuff in the UK. But in Japan, because it's such a paradise for me and foreigners living here, the things that I've said are not that bad. But it's just these things that slightly annoy me, but don't really affect me. And those are my Room 101 for Japan. So I will be back in the studio, which is only slightly smaller than this hotel room, if you look. So the room is the size of a double bed. And all I've got here, just behind the camera, is I've got my telly and there's a unit bathroom. The unit bathroom is, in fact, them on YouTube. I'll show you. I'll show you my hotel room. So we can see I've got my bed here. We've got a small telly. There's the mirror. A little desk where I've just been filming. I've got my suit hanging up there for tomorrow. That is the entrance. So you can just work out just how big this place is. And then the unit bathroom. It's more or less a wet room. So you've got the toilet, the shower. Now, rather than putting two taps in, all you do is you switch this here. Sink, shower, and that's it. And that is a typical Japanese hotel room. It's certainly not MTV Cribs, that's for sure. Okay, I will see you all next week. Thank you for subscribing. Again, Through the Roof, that Zelensky episode, one of my best ever for downloads. So thank you, and keep you downloading and share it with everybody, please. See you next week.